Happy Harry Potter Friday. So, hope you're out there in your pajamas. Hope you're out there wearing something Harry Potter like. You gotta be supporting me. You can't just let me do it by myself. Okay, so here we are to read some more about the Bermuda Triangle. I hope you're enjoying the Bermuda Triangle. It's a little mysterious. Definitely a lot of weird, unexplained things are happening. So I'm going to keep reading. I know that we talked, when we read last, we were talking about how many ships had disappeared. So now we're going to be talking about planes disappearing. So we'll see how exciting that is, okay? So we're on chapter 4. It's called Lost in the Sky. After the 5 Navy planes in Flight 19 vanished, more stories of disappearing airplanes began to mount up. In 1948, a plane called the Star Tiger was headed toward Bermuda. The flight had started in London with 31 passengers and crew on board. The weather was beautiful in Bermuda that day, and the pilot called the tower to say the plane would arrive on time, but it didn't. After that radio call, the Star Tiger was never heard from again. The U.S. Air Force immediately sent out a search team. They searched the ocean for 5 solid days. Not a single piece of the airplane was ever found. The British investigated the disappearance as the plane was British, and Bermuda is a British territory. They didn't turn up enough evidence to explain with certainty what had happened. Here's a picture of the flying tiger. Okay. Britain is England, by the way, if you weren't sure. Now I have an inset that talks about Bermuda. Bermuda is a small group of beautiful islands in the Atlantic Ocean. It is famous for its pink sand beaches. It's located more than 600 miles off the coast of North Carolina. The weather is always warm on the island, so men wear shorts to stay cool. Bermuda shorts are even considered fancy enough to be worn with a formal suit, jacket, and tie. Bermuda was settled by the British in the early 1600s when some people from England were shipwrecked on their way to start a new colony in Virginia. Bermuda never became part of the United States. It's still a British territory, just like in England. People in Bermuda drive their cars on the left side of the road. This shows a picture of men wearing suits and shorts. Bermuda shorts. No one could ever figure out what happened to the Star Tiger. The plane had 4 engines. They couldn't all have died at once. The investigators said it was one of the most baffling problems they'd ever dealt with, and it would forever remain a mystery. So the very next year, the Star Ariel disappeared after taking off from Bermuda on a perfectly calm day. The Star Ariel was a sister to the Star Tiger, the same kind of plane. Somehow, without explanation and without ever calling for help, the sister plane vanished on the same route through the triangle. Meanwhile, another plane had gone missing near the coast of Florida in 1948. The passengers on the DC-3 were families on their way home to Miami after a Christmas vacation in Puerto Rico. It was a perfectly clear night, no storms to worry about at all. The pilot called the Miami control tower to say they were only 50 miles away. They would be landing soon. Then the plane simply vanished forever. Here's a picture of the cockpit, the inside, with the pilots. In November 1956, a plane just like the rescue plane from Flight 19 exploded one night in midair after leaving from Bermuda. A huge ship in the water saw the explosion in the sky, and then in January 1962, another Air Force plane vanished near the triangle. That shows the explosion, the plane exploding, and the ship witnessing it. In August 1963, 2 large military jets took off together from an airfield in southern Florida. Something terrible happened to both planes, but neither pilot called for help. Why not? Nobody knows. Broken pieces of the plane were found floating in different parts of the Atlantic Ocean, both in the Bermuda Triangle. The next unexplained event happened in 1965. An Air Force plane called a C-119, or Flying Boxcar, took off from Florida, headed toward the Bahamas. The pilot called into the tower when the plane was only about 45 minutes away from his destination. Everything seemed fine. He reported no trouble. The weather was good and the plane was expected to arrive on time. Instead, it vanished completely. No one knows why. So this shows the ship pulling the wreckage of those two planes out of the water. And this shows that boxcar plane that disappeared. Then, in January 1967, 3 planes disappeared in the same week in the Bermuda Triangle, all in good weather. On Halloween in 1991, a Grumman Cougar jet flying near the triangle disappeared from all radar screens in an instant. The plane was never seen again. A number of years later, another plane vanished from the radar while flying toward Nassau, the capital of the Bahamas. Half an hour later, it popped back up on the radar screen, and then it disappeared forever. And the mystery continues. By some counts, more than 75 planes have disappeared. What's happening? Is the power of the Bermuda Triangle getting stronger? Here's the map that shows the islands of the Bahamas. Chapter 5, Strange Answers. What kind of strange unnatural force could make ships and boats disappear in the Bermuda Triangle? Over the years, people have come up with a long list of possible explanations. One idea is there's something weird going on with the magnetic forces that surround Earth near the Bermuda Triangle. There is some evidence that compasses do work strangely in the area. The leader on Flight 19 had trouble with his compasses. Other pilots have reported the same thing. Sometimes their compasses start spinning wildly and won't point to north at all. Even Christopher Columbus had trouble with his compass on his journey to the New World. Why? Does the Bermuda Triangle have a strange power over compasses? This is showing a pilot, and his compass is acting funny. To understand the answer, you need to know how compasses work. A compass is a tool that helps people know what direction they're going, north, east, south, or west. The compass has a magnetized needle or pointer inside. The needle is mounted on a pin so it can spin around. It is attracted to the magnetic forces that encircle the Earth. Some people think a compass will always point to the North Star or the North Pole, called true north, but that's not right. The needle always points to something called magnetic north. Magnetic north isn't right at the North Pole. It's a spot near the North Pole where the magnetic forces come together. Magnetic north is always slowly moving around the globe. Why? Because the spinning of the Earth is the force that creates the magnetic fields. And as the Earth spins, the hot liquid core of the Earth changes shape a little bit. Okay, so let me show you this picture. This is showing, it's an illustration of a compass, and then the next one is actually kind of a map of where true north is compared to magnetic north. So that's the inner workings of a compass, and here is magnetic north compared to true north. It changes the magnetic fields, so magnetic north is always moving. Some days it can be located 50 miles away from its usual spot. On average, though, it moves about 6 miles per year. Today, sailors and pilots know that true north and magnetic north aren't always in the same place. Magnetic north is a few hundred miles away from the North Pole. So when pilots use a compass today, they always know they have to make a correction. They have to add or subtract from where the needle points. The amount of correction depends on where the pilot is on the globe. When Columbus sailed to the New World, he didn't know that there was a difference between true north and magnetic north, but he guessed that his compass was pointing to something other than the North Star. He was right. But was there some kind of strange magnetic force near the Bermuda Triangle? No. In fact, the only thing that's unusual about the Bermuda Triangle is that it's lined up with one of the few places on Earth where magnetic north and true north are often the same. Sometimes compasses spin wildly in the Bermuda Triangle, but it's not some strange unknown force making it happen. It can happen anywhere on Earth. A compass needle will swing back and forth if the waves are choppy at sea. That's showing a ship captain and his compass is acting weird. Wild winds can make a compass needle dance around in an airplane. It doesn't mean there's anything strange going on. It just means compasses work best when they are held level and still. In the 1970s, some people thought UFOs might be involved with the strange disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle. They said that each time a boat or plane disappeared in the area, the humans might have been kidnapped or captured by an alien spaceship. Where did this idea come from? The UFO idea probably started when the flying boxcar disappeared in 1965. The Gemini 4 spacecraft was circling the Earth at the same time. Gemini 4 was the first space mission in which American astronauts walked in space outside the capsule. During the flight, astronaut James McDivitt reported that he saw a UFO just a day or so before the flying boxcar disappeared. He said the UFO was a white cylinder with big arms sticking out. He even took a picture of it. Astronaut. A few years later, a group of people who keep track of UFO stories put those two facts together. They came up with an idea about what happened to the flying boxcar. They claimed that aliens were there that day and might have snatched the plane right out of the air. But James McDivitt reminded everyone that UFO stands for Unidentified Flying Object. It means anything flying that can't be identified, not just spaceships from another planet. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of UFOs in space all the time. They are pieces of satellites that broke apart or pieces of rockets that broke off when the space shuttle was launched. These UFOs are sometimes called space junk. James McDivitt never claimed to have seen an alien spaceship over the Bermuda Triangle. He just said there was something in the sky he couldn't identify. Here's a picture of astronaut James McDivitt, and then the other one is showing the space junk that could be out there in space. Flight 19, UFOs and Close Encounters. A famous movie director named Steven Spielberg had an idea about what might have happened to Flight 19. He used it in his movie Close Encounters of a Third Kind. It came out in 1977. The film starts when some scientists discover that 5 planes from Flight 19 in the desert in Mexico. The planes are in good shape and still working, but the pilots are gone. Soon, alien spacecraft are seen in the sky all over the world. At the end of the movie, a huge mothership lands in the desert. When the spaceship doors open, people who had been captured by the aliens in the past are set free. The 5 pilots from Flight 19 are among the people who walk out of the mothership. They haven't aged a day, even though it is 30 years later. That's a movie, though. It's fiction. Other people have come up with an even stranger idea about the Bermuda Triangle. They think maybe planes and boats disappear because they are sucked into the ocean and sink down into the lost world of Atlantis. Here's a picture of that. Atlantis is a mythical city that probably never existed, but it has been written about in stories and legends for thousands of years. In many of the stories, Atlantis was a very advanced, high-tech city. It was located on an island in the Atlantic Ocean. Later, according to the stories, the island sank deep into the ocean. Some stories say the people of Atlantis had invented powerful flying vehicles and electricity. Others claim that some of the ancient buildings are still there at the bottom of the ocean. They believe that powerful energy beams are still being sent out from the lost world of Atlantis. That's what has been snatching planes and ships. There is no reason to believe that Atlantis ever existed, so it has nothing to do with the Bermuda Triangle. But the idea of a lost world is very popular. A beach hotel and resort in the Bahamas is named Atlantis. The hotel is built to look like an ancient city with pyramids as water slides. Atlantis is just one of the many explanations for the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle. Another weird idea has to do with mercury in the ocean. Mercury is a metal that is liquid at normal temperatures on Earth. Some of it seeps into into the ocean naturally. So I'm going to show you a picture of the hotel resort that's called Atlantis, and then there's a little picture of liquid mercury. Some people said maybe mercury in the ocean was sending radio signals that made the planes crash. There is no scientific proof for this at all. It's just an idea that someone made up. Scientists don't think it's true. Other nonsensical ideas about the triangle included sea monsters and witchcraft, but maybe the wild explanation for the Bermuda Triangle is that it's a time warp. A time warp is something made up by science fiction writers. One famous children's book about time warps is called A Wrinkle in Time. In a time warp, people and things can travel through time, or time can speed up and slow down. If a plane entered a time warp, it would disappear from the normal world. Supposedly, it could fly to somewhere else. We don't have any reason to believe that a time warp exists. With so many weird ideas floating around, how could anyone know what's true? One man decided to investigate the Bermuda Triangle to find out what really happened when all of those ships and planes disappeared. And tomorrow we will start chapter 6, which is called The Librarian Detective. Okay, so that's all for today with the Bermuda Triangle. And hopefully you guys had a great pajama day. And hopefully you did something Harry Potter related, since it's Harry Potter Friday. And that's it for today. So I will put up more chapters of both of our books on Monday. I hope you have a great weekend. If you would like to write things to me and stuff, you can still do that on the weekend. No problem. I'll still check my email and stuff. Okay? I miss you guys, and I hope that you are having some fun at home and have a great weekend planned. Okay? Talk to you later.